BNC, 100% black and brown host around the clock. Finally, news that speaks to us.
Good evening. This is Making the Case. I'm Yorit Tawalda. Days after his sentencing hearing, Jussie Smollett's case is still being talked about, with some making case comparisons in an effort to illustrate an unfair legal system. And now there are new developments in the case. Attorneys have filed an emergency injunction asking the court to release Jussie from jail pending an appeal. Among the reasons, they say the former Empire actor started his jail sentence in a psychiatric ward that could be detrimental to his mental health. They also claim Jussie has a compromised immune system and is at greater risk of catching COVID-19. Joining me tonight is Jussies Brother JoJo Smollett, along with Jussie's attorney Nenye Uche. I guess we're missing Jussie's brother. But let me just start with asking you, Nenye, have you had contact with Jussie? How's he holding up? When's the last time you spoke to him?
Well, I spoke to Jussie earlier today by phone. I plan to see him tonight, the whole legal team. We see him every day. He is holding up as strong as anyone will under these circumstances. Jail is not easy for any human being, of course. And so he's doing the best he can be doing at this point in time. He's a strong man. He's a leader, and he has a lot of supporters who are supporting him. And he's doing the best he can.
Now, I'm understanding that the family is having to deal with recent threats being made since Jussie's sentencing. What can you tell us about that?
Well, what's strange about these phone calls is one of the family members, who I wouldn't mention at this time for privacy reasons, gave her cell phone number as a emergency contact information, which is standard procedure when a person is being taken into custody in Cook County. She gave that number to the jail system personnel. And within an hour of giving that number away, she began to get really vile, threatening, racist phone calls. Escalated till today, and I believe about sometime around 9 a.m. this morning, she got an even more threatening phone call alleging that the person was basically stating that he was going to do harm to Jussie in the jail. Now, what concerns me about this is it's one thing to get throws calling your phone, is another thing to get these messages when you've given your number to jail personnel. And that's scary. And, a lot of people wondered aloud why was Jussie making those statements he was making when he was being taken in custody? Well, to them, I say this is the reason why. It's a scary thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would think that they would take extra precaution given his public persona to keep information sealed. I want to play a clip for our viewers of Jussie's other brother, Jackie, who posted to social media today about Jussie's mental state.
So Jussie is currently in the psych ward at Cook County Jail. What's very concerning is that there was a note attached to his paperwork today and put on the front of his jail cell saying that he's at risk of self-harm. I want to just make it clear to folks that he is in no way, shape, or form at risk of self-harm. And he wants to let folks know that he is very stable, he is very strong, he is very healthy and ready to take on the challenge that ultimately has been put up against him.
Nenye, Jussie made this point in his sentencing, what you referenced earlier, towards the end of his sentencing hearing, that he made this exact same point, that he in no way would harm himself, and now the jail facility has labeled him as a risk of self-harm. Explain to me why they believe this. Was there some sort of an assessment done?
So and that's, again, another scary thing. I went to see Jussie last time this came up was on Saturday, and Jussie informed me in custody that he had witnessed something strange. I asked him what it was, and he indicated to me that when he got back to his jail cell after a phone call with his family, he noticed someone had put on the personnel sheet on his door indicating that he was at risk for self-harm. Now, that's strange because when Jussie was initially brought into this division, this particular facility, none of that was done. I asked jail personnel at that point in time if anything had happened, if somehow Jussie had caused any problems for himself or anyone, and they said no, he was on great behavior. And so that is either a technical error or someone being very mischievous. And of course, it's a mischief we take very seriously due to the safety risk and the risk to his life and the threats that have been happening and the phone calls to his family threatening them. So it's really scary. Obviously, if there's nothing wrong with you from an emotional or mental state, and all of a sudden someone is indicating that you might harm yourself, well, of course, you're going to start thinking that someone has it out for you, and that's scary. And so we're looking into that right now to see what's going on.
Yeah, it would be too coincidental that Jussie in his hearing says, listen, I'm in no way at risk of ever harming myself. And then they actually do label him as a risk to harm himself. So I definitely don't think it's an error. I think that something, it just doesn't smell right. Well, bring us up to speed on the emergency injunction that your team filed. I know that it was filed in part because of where Jussie is being housed currently, but what are the grounds is the injunction based on?
Well, the grounds are two grounds, right? It's almost like playing semantics, but they have different effects. The first ground, of course, is we're arguing that they should stay his sentence, and we're saying they should stay the sentence because we believe we have a very strong appeal, and some of the grounds are constitutional. Can you punish a person twice? And the answer should be no. Let's not forget Jussie was prosecuted once before. They reached a contractual agreement. He was fined $10,000, which he has never received back up until today. He was made to do community service, which he cannot undo. And then he was prosecuted a second time. Now, the reason for this prosecution was not any allegation that he bribed the former prosecutor or he did something illegal, but it was just because they felt the prosecutor was too lenient on him. And then they prosecuted him a second time, giving him 30 months probation, made to pay restitution, which is unheard of $120,000, and made to pay the maximum of $25,000 fines and to do 5 months in jail. That's overkill, and that's punishing someone twice. So we believe we have a strong appeal, and that's our basis for that part of the appeal, of the emergency appeal. Now, the second part is to grant bail pending the appeal. If the appellate court doesn't feel that the emergency motion to stay the sentence is appropriate, the next thing is to tell them, listen, this individual has always come to court. He's not a flight risk. We also believe we have a strong appeal. And we're asking the court, if you can't stay the sentence, at the very least, give him bail so that he can be out working and being a normal part of society. And those are the two grounds we're going on at this point in time.
Nenye, you talk about Jussie being prosecuted once before, twice even, and the criticism that the DA there, Kim Foxx, has faced since these charges were initially dropped. How do you feel this whole case has sort of unraveled in front of not just the court of public opinion, but in court as well? I mean, there seems to be more scrutiny when a DA of color does something within their discretion. We've seen that with progressive prosecutors across this country, where their decisions are being second guessed, whereas there are other prosecutors. I'll just bring up a case with Ahmaud Arbery, that initial DA who decided not to do anything when it came to this apparent murder that these three individuals were eventually convicted of. There wasn't a whole lot of oversight in that respect. So how do you feel all of that has sort of unraveled from start to finish?
I think you said it. You said it straight up. Or you said it yourself. I think this is a discussion people get uncomfortable talking about, and I don't know why. Because I don't think the solution will be found if we keep pretending it doesn't exist. You have the situation in Baltimore with a prosecutor down there. You have the situation here in Chicago. Complete disgrace. You have the first duly elected Black female prosecutor, Kim Foxx. She made an executive decision regarding the dismissal of a case, not for free, not for him to just walk away because he's a celebrity, but he was made to pay fines and made to do community service. Some would even argue did more than any other person would do in his circumstance, because I used to be a prosecutor in Chicago. Most people charged with a class 4 disorderly conduct go through a diversion program where they don't even pay up to $10,000 fines. And so to have her make that decision, and then you go appoint somebody that wasn't elected as a special prosecutor, basically to second guess her and to usurp her authority, I think was really, really shameful. This is not some murder case where she told some murderer, you know what, pay a $5,000 fine and bye-bye, thank you for killing someone. No, this is a low-level class 4 felony, and she made the right choice. Let's not forget the Obama administration and even the Trump administration through the First Step Act pushed forward reforms to decarcerate the criminal justice system, to get people out of there for low-level offenses. And so Kim Foxx did the right thing, and she was second guessed. And it's really disgraceful. And it's a conversation that needs to be had. And we have to find ways to basically protect these prosecutors of a minority descent or Black descent from what I consider a well-organized attack and assault on them and their reputations. And it's really sad. It's really sad.
Attorney Nenye Uche, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And listen, we are definitely going to be keeping our eye on this case, and so feel free to come back anytime. We'll be back with more Making the Case. We're talking about the latest developments post-sentencing in the Jussie Smollett case. Since the start of his jail sentence last week, the defense has filed an emergency injunction to get the actor released pending an appeal. I've got Jussies Brother JoJo Smollett with me. I don't know what happened before the break, JoJo, but I'm glad that you were able to come back. Listen, I just have a few questions. I talked to Nenye, Jussie's attorney, of course. He touched on some of the threats that you and your family have been facing since Jussie's jail stint, since that started last week. Talk about that and how your family is holding up with all of this.
Yeah, I became aware of the very morbid threat. It was a very racist and very homophobic threat in nature that was made to it was about a threat made about my brother, who's currently, as you know, incarcerated. And one of my other siblings actually received the voicemail of the threat. And it was just pure unadulterated evil. It's the work of the devil. It's just the kind of thing that you know, entertainers and people who are public figures receive those kinds, and, you know, from stalkers or from people all the time. Jussie's had his definitely high level of hatred, you know, targeted at him over the years. But this was very morbid, considering the fact that he's actually right now in jails and prisons in America we know are not safe places.
JoJo, have you been able to speak to Jussie? I know he's being held in a psychiatric ward, so I'm not sure how often they're allowed to visit with family, with their attorneys. How is Jussie doing, if you have been able to speak with him?
You know, Jussie's doing, I've been hearing, Jussie's doing well. He's strong. He's strong-willed. It's a difficult scenario. You know, he's incarcerated for a crime that we still contend to this day did not occur, this crime. And to add the injury to insult, he's now not only been convicted, but now incarcerated for a crime that in most states in the United States is not even a felony. We feel it was intended to make him into of group of people who far on the margin of extremism in this country, to make them satisfied. You know, they want to see someone that fits the demographics that Jussie fits criminalized. And I think that was what happened. You know, the prosecutors say that they were trying to restore public trust. Well, public trust in Cook County is not restored by sending Jussie to jail. Right? Public trust in Cook County. I don't know, public trust on some far right-wing extremist lynch mob group on the internet might feel vindicated right now, but the people of Cook County, if you ask them personally, they don't feel, you know, public trust has been restored. You had a duly elected district attorney, just as Mr. Uche just so elevated in the last segment, who was given the authority and her sovereignty as a PA and an elected official was disrespected, and it was over her decision that she dispensed with this case originally in a similar fashion to cases. Or I'm not a legal expert, but I understand. I've been hearing almost all cases of this nature. But that right of hers to dispense of this case the way she, thought in her own discretion should be done was completely disrespected. And there was effort to chase my brother to the ends of the earth. And keep in mind that this case, there is no credible evidence against him. It's all a he said, she said situation. She got the two guys that claim that she did this whole idea with them. If you listen to their side of the story, then all the prosecutor's case rests on their shoulders. All right, but there's no evidence. There's no audio evidence. There's nothing to substantially state that Jussie actually did this. So
Well, JoJo,
justice is.
JoJo, I'm running out of time, but I definitely want to extend the same invite that I extended to Nenye to come back on the show. I definitely would want you to come back and tell us how Jussie's case is doing. I know that there was an injunction that was filed, so we're definitely keeping an eye on the case. And I thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it.